Bob Bradley's fast and furious Toronto FC rebuild has moved now from moves that we kind of expected to moves where bet you didn't see that coming. Marky Delgado, the fourth most capped player in Toronto FC history, is being moved to the LA Galaxy in exchange for $400,000 in general allocation money, with the possibility for an extra $100,000 based off of his performances. Delgado has been a regular fixture in the Toronto FC midfield since 2015, racking up 225 appearances for the club. And he's always been one of those guys who, he's not very flashy, he's not incredibly noticeable when he's on the field, but when he's missing, his absence is felt. And he was just a guy who, for 7 seasons, came in almost every game to TFC, did his job, did it well, helped be a solid force in the midfield, was a very important part of the 2017 treble and the 2016 and 2019 finals runs, and overall just had a solid career for Toronto FC. And this is the first move that Bob Bradley has made that has actually surprised me, because Delgado is an MLS guy. He seems like an MLS lifer, an American citizen, has had a couple appearances for the American national team, but isn't really a regular there, kind of in the spectrum of guys who may get occasional call-ups to that squad. But in Major League Soccer, he is a useful midfielder, a useful center midfielder, and so for Bob Bradley to go and just move him in a trade when he still has him under contract, honestly, is quite surprising to me. He's a guy that is a regular starter for TFC and could continue to be a regular starter this year. And it's rare in MLS, especially for TFC, where you see guys who are regular starters just getting traded off like that if their contract isn't up. And especially too, at the age of 26, Delgado is right in his prime, so you don't really have to worry about age causing his game to deteriorate just yet. It seems that Bob Bradley has decided that Marky Delgado's game style doesn't fit the system that he wants to play. And also, this may be spurned on too by the fact that Ralph Priso, before getting injured last year, was absolutely incredible and really showed that he probably is about to pass Marky Delgado in a center midfield role. So probably this is showing a little bit of added trust from Bob Bradley into Ralph Priso going forward, and also Noble Okello, another young center midfielder for Toronto FC, and those two guys both being ready to step up and get regular minutes in MLS. And it appears that Bob Bradley now trusts that those two guys are ready to be regular players in MLS, and that's given him the confidence to move Marky Delgado for almost $500,000 in general allocation money. Delgado moves to LA Galaxy, who are coached by former TFC head coach Greg Vanney. Vanney, of course, was the coach of TFC for most of Delgado's tenure here, and he was a big Delgado fan. He brought Delgado in because he was a big fan of the youngster when he was at Chivas USA, when Vanney was the assistant coach and Delgado was a young homegrown player there, and he brought Delgado over to TFC, started playing him in the 2015 season, and just didn't look back. And so now Delgado follows Victor Vazquez and Raheem Edwards as former TFC guys that Greg Vanney coached that are now going to follow Greg Vanney to the Galaxy. So for Delgado, he now goes to a team where he knows he is a coach that likes him and a coach who is going to keep playing him. So even though he's moving to a different city and to a different team in a different conference in MLS, it seems like he's getting a bit more consistency than had he stayed, because here he would have had to get into a new coach's lineup with young guys like Priso knocking on the door for his spot. Now going to the Galaxy, he goes to play for Greg Vanney, a coach who likes him and a coach who will most likely start him. For TFC now, the center of the midfield is looking a bit thin, as all we have left in those positions are Bradley, Priso, Okello, Azorio, but he plays a bit more up sometimes, and Pozuelo, who's more of a cam. So that right there is the entirety midfield of TFC, which, given that Michael Bradley is getting a little bit older and there's been some injury issues with a few of those guys in the past, there obviously will probably have to be another guy or two brought in for depth. However, this move 100% was just fully made possible by the rapid development of Ralph Priso the past 2 years. And I've been saying, if Ralph Priso doesn't get hurt in the middle of this season for TFC, the middle of this past 2021 season, it's a different year for TFC. Him and Akinola, had they stayed healthy the whole year, TFC is a completely different squad, because Priso was on his way up as the season was going on. And if he didn't get hurt, he probably would have been in contention for a Canadian national team spot in the September and October and November windows. So giving up Delgado, the replacement, the obvious replacement for him, is already in the system in Ralph Priso, and I think Ralph Priso is good enough to just slot right into a starting role in MLS this upcoming season. TFC though, with Larea leaving to Nottingham Forest, and now with Delgado moving to the Galaxy, we have from those two deals dumped Delgado's salary, dumped Larea's salary, got another $400,000 plus potential bonuses from the Delgado move. That brings us up to almost $200,000 in general allocation money, because remember, we offered Larea over $900,000. So just that sheer amount of money that TFC has built up. Add to that the fact we got a little bit more general allocation money from the Dwyer trade. TFC has just accumulated all of this allocation money space right now, like millions of dollars. And we can do a ton with it. Like, I'm really interested to see what TFC is going to do with all this allocation money they have just sitting there. My money would be on a couple new fullbacks, because in those positions with the departures of Morrow and Larea, we're down to Aro, Lawrence, and the newly signed homegrown player Petrasso, and potentially more depth in the center of midfield because Bob Bradley is getting up there in age. I don't know if he can start and consistently play 90 minutes every game. Ralph Priso is fantastic, but I feel like they need another known veteran presence in the midfield to play consistently, because if things go down to it and you're relying on Priso and Akello game in, game out, if those two players' development doesn't track the way that I think we're expecting them to, things could get a little sketchy in the center midfield there. So TFC, I mean, they have a lot of general allocation money sitting around. Why not bring in another center midfielder and just make things happen? So there you have it. Marky Delgado has been moved to the LA Galaxy, and with that, only 5 players remain from the legendary 2017 TFC squad. A guy who has been a key component to TFC since 2015. It is going to be sad to see him go, and really sad to see him playing against TFC in this upcoming season. But in the fast and furious one-off season rebuild world that Bob Bradley is trying to accomplish, tough choices have to be made. And Delgado, a player who was only ever positive on the pitch for TFC, has to be sacrificed to make Bob Bradley's dream work. Best of luck in LA. Thank you, Delgado. That does it for this video. As always, if you like it, hit like. If you want to see more of my stuff, hit subscribe. Follow me on Twitter. Link is down below in the description, and I will see you next time.